Hello and welcome to Talking Live. I'm Dr. Robi Ludwig right here in Starshop Studio in Times Square. And today I am really excited because we are talking with a very popular author, Scott Ryan, about the last days of Letterman. But before we start, we want to tell you about Hot Bid. We're very excited. It's every Wednesday. Marvin, you have something special going on you want to mention?
We do. We're actually relaunching this Wednesday. Then we have Black Friday and Cyber Monday, and all very, very unique and vintage watches.
And this is another watch that you are actually auctioning off right here.
Black Panther, very hot, very popular movie and watch, and you really can't get that anywhere. We have like just one of those left.
And you have to act quickly, otherwise they go. So we're really excited. So don't forget to look at our link every Wednesday, and then Cyber Friday, or whatever they call it, Friday, Monday. Check it out because it's going to be very exciting. Scott, so excited to have you here. First of all, I'm fascinated with all the books that you write. You did something on 30-something.
Yes, I love 30-something.
Yeah, I know. I figured that we have the same taste because I love that show too.
It's nice to meet someone who actually remembers 30-something.
I know. You get to a point generationally, right? And then people don't know what you're talking about. But I imagine everybody knows what you're talking about when it comes to the Letterman show and the final 6 weeks. I have to say, I was looking through the photos and there were just so many stars that were packed in those 6 weeks. What got you interested in writing about this topic in particular?
Well, for me, Dave meant everything. I always called him my TV friend. That was my hour to... It was like my soap opera, was watching Dave, and, you know, my kids understood that was Don't Bother Dad. He's watching Letterman. And so during those last 6 weeks, when I watched it when they aired, I really was almost mourning a loss of what mattered to me. But it wasn't until about 2 years later that I rewatched the episodes. And that's when I was like, this needs to be documented. This really was a moment of television history. You know, we just talked about 30-something.
Yeah.
That was 30 years ago. People could forget it.
We have a picture from your book. And this is what it looks outside. We'll get to Bill Murray in a moment. But there was just crowds every day. And I remember when they took down that Late Show sign, and it was just, it really did feel like just a changing of the guards, and like you are missing an old friend you see every day.
Well, and of course, there's a great story in the book about how they threw the set in the trash can within 24 hours of it ending. Like, there's not much time. I mean, the next morning they came.
TV for you.
Yep.
Once you're done, you're in the trash.
Right. This couch will very soon. The show's over. Boom. It's
Margaret's
out on touch.
Gonna throw me in the trash while I'm doing this, but that's a separate story. So I'm surprised that they didn't want to earn money off of that sign. I would think that would be worth a lot.
I know. And even some of the writers and the people who work there, they didn't have time to grab things. They, you know, so many of them said I would have put it in my basement. And it was gone. They came the next morning, and overnight CBS just destroyed the set.
Now, you mentioned that you spoke with about 20 people behind the scenes. You spoke to writers, you spoke to employees. Who did you speak to get the most from this book?
Well, for me, it's Barbara Gaines. She was the executive producer with Dave for 35 years. And she's the heart and soul of this book. She's the reason it exists. So once I got her, and I got her trust, and they sort of realized that my intentions were pure and to just capture this moment, then she put me in contact with everyone else. And that's how, you know, she would say, well, you got to talk to this person, and that person would give me that person. And it just sort of rolled from there.
How do you prove yourself to somebody like that? Because we do live in a tabloid-esque world, and it's tempting to get dirt and share that kind of information. What did you do to gain her trust?
Boy, I wish I knew. That's why I wanted to appear here. I was hoping you could psychoanalyze me, because I don't know. I mean, I think that I'm very open and honest with people from the beginning. And I sent her my 30-something book, and that also has no dirt. That doesn't interest me. What interests me is art and work and the craft of television. not what happens that's nasty among people. And I think by not asking any of those questions, I earned Barbara's trust. It took me 2 years to get an interview with her.
Oh my goodness.
So I kept tweeting her. I know you're supposed to use Twitter to just yell your political opinions, but I actually use it to contact people for interviews. It's a strange thing.
Did you ever give up hope during those 2
Sure.
years?
Yeah, lots of times. And a lot of times I would tweet her and say, Barbara, I want to interview you. And she would like it. And I'm like, what does that mean? I mean, that's not an
She
email.
liked the idea.
Yeah, she was like, I like that. Well, a phone number? And eventually we connected up and it worked out. And she's been so sweet throughout this whole process.
Well, I have to say, I mean, I learned so many things from your book about the various celebrities. There were just so many. For example, Bill Murray, and we have a photo from the book of Bill Murray with Lady Gaga and Dave. And I did not know he does not have an agent or publicist. What's that about?
There's no way to get Bill Murray unless you get Bill Murray. So Sheila Rogers had to book Bill. And she said you would text him, and sometimes, very similar to my thing with Barbara Gaines, sometimes she would say, like, can you come on the show this day? And he would respond with something that was funny, but not an answer. And you just didn't know. And you could go 6 weeks and not hear from Bill.
Why would someone so high profile not have an agent in place or a publicist in place? Do they not want to be found?
I think he doesn't want to be found. I mean, I think he likes his privacy, but Bill Sheff shared a story that he was standing outside the door.
And let's tell the audience who Bill Sheff is.
Bill Sheff he wrote the foreword to the book and wrote Dave's monologue for like 24 years. That was his job with Steve Young. And Bill said the night that Bill Murray had his last appearance, he was standing outside and he could hear Dave and Bill talking. And they were just talking as two friends. There was none of that Hollywood stuff. And I think that's who Bill Murray probably is. And he doesn't want that layer that other people. So you're not going to be able to book him. I'm sorry.
Okay. Well, that's probably really healthy, because I think sometimes getting out of the Hollywood scene where people can be real is a better way to function. It's probably more authentic.
Right. That's what I do.
If you like that. Yes. And I found you to be the same way. You mention in your book as well that one of the appeals of Dave was that people would go on really just to talk to him as a friend. They wouldn't necessarily go on to pitch a show they were doing or to publicize something they were working on. They really did go on for him. How is that different from other people who are hosting at the time or hosting today?
I think it's so radically different. I don't think you can even overstate it enough. It all started with Sarah Jessica Parker. She was the first guest that started off their last run of episodes. It was before she was doing Divorce. She just came on because she wanted to say goodbye to David Letterman.
And I think we have a picture somewhere in there of Sarah Jessica Parker, who really in the book you describe was just wanted to stick with how much she would miss him.
Yeah, she really turned the tables, in my opinion, of what they thought the last 6 weeks would be. I think their thought was, let's bring back people that Dave loved. And Dave and Sarah had many great episodes.
And we have a picture from your book.
Yeah, and right there she's just begging him. And you can see right here, she's got a Kleenex that she has stuffed in her sleeve, so she doesn't cry. And her words were so moving, and Dave just didn't want to hear it. He wasn't interested in that, but he was going to have to suffer for the next 6 weeks because she sort of set that tone.
It's hard to hear people get emotional sometimes.
Yeah.
It's hard to go there. I think even as a therapist, sometimes it's hard to go there. You just want to stay where it's light and funny. But I think it was great that his guests could share how they felt in a meaningful way. There are so many people, like Norm Macdonald, who
talking about showing your emotions.
Yeah.
Think about the fact that he did a stand-up routine and he cried at the end. I mean, his emotions, and it wasn't fake. Jerry Foley, who directed The Late Show, said he's seen performers break down in rehearsal and then do it again on air. this was not that. I mean, his emotions overtook him, knowing that he would be the last stand-up comic to ever do a set.
I thought it was interesting that Amy Schumer was on the show before she was a household name. Somebody saw her, I guess, a celebrity status before she actually arrived and said, this girl's really funny.
Yeah, that was Bryant Atta, who now is the executive producer of The View.
FYI, I tried to get Brian on the show today. I actually contacted him, and he would have been here, but he said he's so thrilled that we were doing the show, and he's going to watch it because he's a big fan of yours and loved the book as well. Hi, Brian. Hi, Brian. There's room next time.
There's room for Brian.
I love Brian.
I would never pick a favorite because I loved everyone that I interviewed, but I felt Brian and I are so similar. The way we felt about the show, the way we grew up with it, he just happened to work on it and I didn't. Just a little minor difference.
Brian, and I've never heard Brian speak this way, but Brian talked about hold on. I wrote this down. He said Bruce Willis was always one of the guests that he would get nervous before having on. And Brian has worked with everybody. So that kind of surprised me. Did he tell you what in particular about Bruce Willis made him nervous?
Yes. Bruce Willis was one of the guests that always prepared something. And Maria Pope used to produce those segments. She went on to work at a different talk show. And so when Brian had to do that, it was his first time. And he knew the legacy of Bruce did some crazy things on the show, always. He always came on with something on his head, whether it was meat or whatever was the new thing. So I think it wasn't Bruce that made him nervous, it was the legacy of Bruce.
Yeah.
Like, is he going to have an idea good enough for the last time? And what they did is they had him dress like David Addison from the 80s again. So he wore the exact same thing. He had the David Addison hair from Moonlighting.
Very
and that
cute.
was their idea. And it worked well.
I like it. Brian's very creative.
Oh, he came up with a lot of the great ideas that happened with George Clooney being handcuffed. That was Brian, and many of the classic moments in the last 6 weeks.
So Jerry Seinfeld was the first to get Dave to agree to be interviewed during the last 6 weeks. Is that true? Did they switch places? I think we have a picture of that from your book as well.
Yeah, Jerry's appearance, and this is just my opinion, it's the best Jerry ever did on The Late Show. So first he came out and he did his first set that he did back in 1982, practically word for word. There was a couple things that you couldn't say on television in 2015 that you could say in the 80s because times had luckily changed.
Yeah.
But for the most part, he does the same set, and it's still funny. And then when he gets to the desk, he tells Dave he has questions for him, and he makes them swap, and he says, "This is stupid. Why are you doing this?" And he really pushes Dave. And it's to watch these two comic geniuses go at each other is really, really good.
It was a real special moment. Bob Dylan was not one of the show's first choices.
Well, I know they've been
Poor
reporting
Bob Dylan. That's what you get for being mistaken for a homeless person in New Jersey.
Well, the press has kind of picked that up from the book, but that's not exactly true.
Okay.
It's not exactly true. Bryant Atta had an idea. We just said he's very creative.
Yes.
That they would redo the first show as the final show. The first guests on The Late Show were Billy Joel and Bill Murray. The last one is Bill Murray and Bob Dylan. And he said it'd be great to have Billy Joel again and sing Seeing the Lights Go Out on Broadway on the marquee.
That would be amazing.
He just thought it would be a great idea.
It's a great idea.
They got Bob Dylan. And they weren't going to not have Bob Dylan.
Yeah. Because he's a hard get.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, he hasn't done late night television in a very, very long time. And it was only his third appearance on Dave. So to get Bob Dylan, it's not that he wasn't their first choice. They wanted Bob Dylan, trust me.
Okay. They wanted him.
And he did a great job. No, you didn't misspoke. It was a different article. I saw that article go out.
It's okay.
Like we were just talking about not being negative or whatever. And I'm like, that's not exactly right.
Was there anyone that said no to the final 6 weeks?
No one, according to Sheila Rogers, who was the booking agent. She said, like Adam Sandler, he is always the lead guest. He didn't come out till like 12:20, which would have never happened because he followed Bill Clinton, which, I mean, I guess you follow a president. It's pretty good.
Yeah. Was there anybody who really wanted to be on that couldn't get on that said, gosh, I really wanted to be on, but they didn't want me?
Well, no, yes. I think everyone.
Everyone.
Yeah, they said there were just people were begging to be on, and Bill Sheff comically says, and there were people that thought they should be on twice, that they were that important in Hollywood.
Yeah.
But they didn't have any trouble booking.
There was, of course, Alec Baldwin, who gave a couple of gifts, right? Mm-hmm. There were presidents who were on, Michelle Obama, President Obama, who said something kind of funny as well.
Yes, Obama, both of them are great guests. And Michelle Obama actually brought the president's marching band and did a tribute to Dave because he was always very supportive of the troops. Him and Biff and Paul would go over to the Iraq War and entertain the troops at Christmas time.
Very nice.
So to have the president's own marching band fill that stadium or theater, it's a what I like to call a cry moment. Not that I would cry, because we're going to keep it.
Right, we're going to keep it light. We're going to keep it funny.
Yeah.
But Michael J. Fox was somebody who was also a comedic genius, had been on the show multiple times, and they were able to go deep and be funny.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the examples of what we're really missing in late night television in not having Letterman, because he really, he didn't just say Michael J. Fox has a foundation and has Parkinson. He really asked him about the research and how they research and what drugs they're finding and how much money they've done. And it becomes this scientific discussion. And what I learned, and it's probably the thing I learned most from doing the book, is a lot of the people on the staff describe Dave as being curious. And I think I wouldn't have thought about that before, but that's the best thing you can be when you're an interviewer.
Absolutely. Really being interested in what your guests have to say.
Right. And I'm thinking you're interested in what I'm saying.
I am interested in what you have to say. But I was interested in you before I even had you. So I think for me, probably a lot like Dave, if you have any kind of control over who comes on, you want people you find interesting, just because it makes your life easier.
Right, and it's just good to sit down.
And I'm not an actress. So I can't pretend. Right, exactly.
This is awesome. That feels so much better.
No, it's true. It's true.
Helped me today.
Tracy Chapman, I found this one of the most interesting aspects of your book. She sang Stand By Me. And she was referring to something very deeply personal in Dave's life.
Yes.
But I don't know if that got expanded upon.
Well, yeah, I mean...
And my fantasies went wild, but you tell me first if you know any details.
Well, Dave would sing 2 songs to his newborn son.
Oh.
And one was Stand By Me, and the other is America by Simon and Garfunkel.
Okay.
And so his request to Cheryl Zellickson, who booked the music guest, was he wanted to hear Stand By Me, and he wanted to hear America. And they got Tracy Chapman to do Stand By Me. And so she sings this very, just this soulful version that is so beautiful. And it's a tribute to Dave and his son, which if you can watch that and, not be moved, there's probably should need to book a session with you.
Yeah, no, it sounds powerful. And I actually thought it was a message to his wife, but it's interesting that it's to his son, which Dave, of course, mentioned his son throughout the show and became a father later in life. So you could see that he really appreciated and really loved that role very much.
I
and
think
was very open about it. In what way did anyone mention?
Well, I think it just made him, I think he became a little softer. I think that, whether he thought it before, but on air, that is when he really got more into global warming and hoping that the earth would be here longer. I feel like he saw into his son's future, which I think happens when you have children.
Yes.
You now start thinking, well, what is the world going to be? And so I think it changed him a lot.
The staff agonized over the final top 10 list, which is no surprise.
And it's such a good top 10 list. It's very funny. They had a ton of great people come out and tell some really wonderful jokes, but every day the top 10 was such a chore for them. I interviewed about 7 writers, I would say, and they all loved it and hated it at the same time, because some of them would say they might write 300 jokes.
Wow.
And you think 7 people are doing that all the way to get down to 10.
Yeah, that's why I stick to my day job. I want to keep life easy for myself. Does Dave have a copy of this book?
He should have a copy of the book. I sent one to Barbara Gaines and asked her to give it to Dave. I hope that she did. I think he would like it. I'm sure that he would at first be a little weary, but like I said, there's nothing negative. It's only the truth from the people who worked for him. So it's not like other people commenting on something. It's an oral history, so it's in their words about exactly what happened. And when you read the book, you really learn these people love Dave. So I think of this as being a love letter from the people that supported Dave. So I think he likes it.
I agree, and I would recommend, if he hasn't read it, that he read it. And I do think, and we're going to send people to a link, and we're not going to let you go so fast because we want people to learn about you as well. But I know that Brian really enjoyed the book and was just very excited for you. And so we're thrilled. And I just have to say, just from the other side, as somebody who enjoyed watching the Letterman show, is that you really see another side of these celebrities, which I think is really important. It's a more personal side and a well-related side that really comes across in your book, which I think is fantastic.
Oh, thank you very much. I actually set out to do that, so now I feel that I've accomplished something.
Well, we have something called the Quick Five. And so we like to give people insight into who our guests are. My first question to you is, what celebrity would you rate as the perfect 10?
Stephen Sondheim. Does that count as a celebrity?
Absolutely.
But to me, Stephen Sondheim is. Am I supposed to? I'm supposed to be quick, or my answer is supposed to?
Whatever. We can both be quick.
I'm just supposed to answer.
And why is he your favorite?
Oh, there we go. I do answer. I just think it's amazing we're alive when he's alive. I mean, he's the greatest writer of all time, and so I gotta go with Sondheim.
Okay, that works for me. What are some things that sound like compliments but are actually insults?
Probably everything on Facebook and Twitter.
Good point.
I'm pretty sure all comments, like everyone always asks me, do you read the comments about your book? No, don't do that.
Don't do that if you want to have any self-esteem.
Yeah, you don't go to the internet for so I would say all Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah, that's a good point. If you could know the absolute total truth to one question, what question would you ask?
Wait a minute, I don't know the absolute truth to everything. I have been bamboozled here. If I could know the truth, I would. I'm not sure. This is stumping me. This is horrible that I am not coming up with something pithy and quick.
Well,
but
you can get back to us.
I feel like I know the truth of things, and
this is just for the guests that aren't as smart as you. Then
no, it's not that. I mean, I'm trying not to be political, so I'm curbing what I'm thinking of. But I mean, right now, truth would be nice. How about that?
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah, works for me. Got it. Best childhood memory?
I would say my best childhood memory is one time I went sled riding and down a mountain. And I swear it was like the most fun I've ever had, except climbing up the hill. But I mean, down the mountain of snow. I'm going to go with that. Yeah, it was just like flying through the snow.
If you could time travel, when would you go to?
I would like to. I'm staying with the Sondheim thing because that's up there, but I've always wished I could have seen Company with Elaine Stritch in it because she's one of my favorites, and it opened on my actual literal birthday. So I guess I'd go back to My Birth But Not For Me for Stritchy.
Well, we are excited to have you. Congratulations on this book. And we just want to tell people that we will have a link so you can find it. And also there's a website called The Last Days of Letterman and a Facebook page.
lastdaysofletterman.com.
Yes.
You can get the book and a Facebook and Twitter account.
And I would advise the people out there who are interested to check out your other books as well, because if you're a 30-something fan, I mean, that's pretty exciting. And I was a huge fan of all of those actors, and it sounds like
I talked to them all.
Yeah, so I want to get that for myself as well. So
yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
it's very good.
So thank you so much. Best of luck with it, guys. If you want to get this book, it's on Amazon. You can find a link on my webpage. Check it out. I know you'll be pleased. And thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.